If you see a visa category that you think you fit into, do not wait, just apply.
How does the UK point-based immigration system impact this visa? Is there any correlation with that?
So an external qualification like a bachelor's or a master's doesn't impact your score really functionally.
Can you shed more light for our viewers to understand how they can achieve citizenship? Because a lot of people, their main perspective is citizenship.
So this British citizenship can be applied for 1 year after PR has been achieved.
Welcome to Global Residency and Citizenship Talks. I am Waquar Karim, Chief Operating Officer at WWICS and CBIS, the world's largest immigration group. For over 30 years, we have been at the forefront of the immigration industry, helping the global elite navigate the complexities of international mobility. Many countries are keen to attract such high caliber individuals. And here at WWICS and CBIS, we have dedicated decades to understanding and facilitating these opportunities. Join us as we decode the complex world of residency and citizenships for you. But before we proceed, please like and subscribe our channel, Global Residency and Citizenship Talks. Today, we delve into the UK's investment-based residency and citizenship options, with a special focus on the UK's self-sponsored visa. Joining us is a very special guest, Mr. Houman Shaikh, Senior Immigration Lawyer from UK. Mr. Houman Shaikh is an expert in both personal and corporate immigration law, with a decade of experience and a deep understanding of UK visa processes and business strategies. Mr. Houman is a graduate from University of Northampton, UK in Bachelor of Law. He is regulated at level 3 by the OISC. By the way, OISC stands for Office of the Immigration Services Commissioner. He previously studied at the prestigious University of Law, Bloomsbury, and achieved a commendation grade for the LPC. Welcome. It's great to have you here with us, Houman.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Waquar, and I'm excited to talk about UK visa options.
Let's kick things off by understanding the landscape of UK immigration. But before that, I want to know from you, how is your professional and personal journey so far in UK and your life as such?
Well, I'm obviously an immigrant child, so falling into immigration actually turned out to be a blessing because I got to experience maybe what my parents went through their journey to Europe, and I got to give back to my community. So it was incredibly rewarding. I wasn't expecting to actually get into immigration at all. I wanted to be a contract lawyer when I was studying, and I took an internship for a few weeks. A few weeks turned into a few years, and 13 years later, I'm sitting here with you in the same company. So I really fell in love with immigration because it's one of the few areas of law where, as a lawyer, we get to do good on both sides. So we help our client and, the end user, like the government of the country, are all satisfied.
So understanding your own journey, because I've been in discussion with you personally one-to-one as well, as an immigrant to UK yourself, how it was rewarding and challenging on the same time for yourself, and understanding what message do you give to anyone who's looking to go to UK for the opportunity which they could avail?
Of course, that's a great question. So it's incredibly rewarding because you get to make a massive difference in people's lives. When people come to us and they want to come to the UK, they're not just doing it for themselves. A lot of times they're doing it for their children. And if you make that case successful, you haven't just helped that generation, you've helped maybe multiple generations in the future. And you can really change the lineage of that whole entire family's history for the better for the future. In terms of how it's been challenging, we face a lot of obstacles, and it's difficult not to take the cases personally. And, mentally, you take it home with you. You always worry about your clients and you want to make sure you do good for them.
So that means those who are looking to migrate, as you said, they should be always looking for a lot of positivity, which UK itself, as a land of immigrant country,
Absolutely,
provides.
absolutely. I think the UK gets a lot of bad reputation in the media these days. It's easy to punch down, but it's still an amazing place to live because of the core factors that will never change. It's always going to be one of the best countries in the world for education of children. It has an amazing health service, which I've made use of several times throughout my life, completely free, amazing service. And of course, the rule of law and the passport, which is ingrained into British society. And I think when you compare it to other European countries and other countries around the world, things like just day-to-day discrimination against immigrants is far lower than other countries. So I would say anyone who's considering moving to the UK, it's a great place to live.
Uh-huh. So understanding it's a great place to live. It's a land of opportunity as well, and especially for the families, those who are looking to grow their families in UK. What I understand. With this perspective, can you give us some overview of UK residency and citizenship options available through the investment routes?
Absolutely. So the ones that are based off investment or business reasons at this point in time, and I preface this with the UK sector moves very quickly. So in a year's time, this might have changed. But right now, as of today, we have three major options. We have the Innovator Founder Visa, which is designed at very high level technical businesses. And those are really for the kind of elite of Silicon Valley and computer-based businesses. So I wouldn't recommend it for most people, but the other two options are much better, I would say. The second option being the expansion worker visa. That's effectively to come and make a branch of an existing company in the UK. So if you have, if you're working for a company in the UAE or anywhere else in the world, or you own a business anywhere in the world and you want to make a branch of that in the UK, that's a very effective route. And the final option is called the self-sponsored skilled worker or the self-sponsored business visa. That's where we set up a brand new company for you, like a startup, and you effectively sponsor yourself as the senior employee of that company. And both of these routes are fantastic ways to enter the UK market and have a clear path to PR and citizenship.
So what I understand, these self-sponsored and the expansion visas, that makes a easy pathway for anyone who's looking for permanent residency and citizenship, provided the person or the family fulfills the basic requirement of the visa.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Does it mean anyone can qualify, or there are certain specific criteria?
Certainly for the expansion worker visa, there's some requirements for the company. It needs to be trading for 3 years. That's really the only major criteria. And as long as obviously you have an involvement in the company and you can show that. With the self-sponsored visa, it doesn't really have any major requirements apart from the fact that you'll need to pass an English test, a level 4.0 on the IELTS scale. But the great thing about both visas is that ultimately they don't have any business requirements to meet the PR. They're simply based off being able to meet the salary payment. So if you think about it as an investment and you think, okay, I pay my salary, as long as I can do that and the money goes into my pocket over 5 years, as long as I can maintain that, it's all within my control. I don't have to rely on whether the UK market is kind to me or whether I'm good at business. You just do the basic things and you will get your permanent residency.
So that I would like to bring then the first visa category which you talked about is a founder innovator visa.
Yes.
How it is totally different, and even if someone comes to you, to whom you're going to suggest that particular program?
I think if the last name is Zuckerberg or maybe Tim Cook, then they might qualify for it. I think there was a good intention from the UK government with this visa, and it has a lot of good branding. I think a lot of people see the information online. It's also quite similar, I think, on paper to the Canadian startup visa. So people think that it's accessible, but unfortunately, there's quite an arduous process to get endorsed to get the visa. So it's not suitable for most people. It's not something that a lawyer can create a business plan for you. It should be something that you have an acute understanding of and uses technology. But equally, to get to the end of the road, the permanent residency is very difficult because the inverse of the other visas, it has very strict business criteria.
Let's dive into key highlights of the discussion today. The UK self-sponsored visa.
Yes.
Could you explain what this visa entails and who it's ideal for?
Okay. So it's basically achievable for anybody, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee and you have some kind of skills, or even if you have any kind of passion and you want to set up and you're happy to run a business in the UK, this is suitable for you. The great thing about it is it doesn't have any pre-qualification requirements like the expansion worker visa. Simply, the main applicant just has to be able to pass an English test. What happens practically is we would establish a new company in the UK. That company would obtain some core documents, very simple things like a bank account, WPS registration, some liability insurance. And as long as it has a UK member of staff or director, that can be a family member or a friend, it doesn't really matter, we can obtain an immigration license for that company. And then the company nominates yourself or your partner, whoever that might be, as its employee, and you and your whole family can get a 5-year visa based off, being the employee of this company. And then effectively what you're doing is you're coming and just running a business, right? And you run that business as you would here or anywhere else in the world. And the path to citizenship is as straightforward as that.
That's very interesting. So it's a direct 5 years of residency
Yes.
for UK. That means not just for the applicant, but the spouse and the children.
Exactly.
And children up to the age of what age?
So children up to the age of 18 can be included. So as soon as they turn 18, they cannot be included as dependents. If people have children who are 18 or over, those can be brought in maybe on a student visa as a temporary measure, and then they can be moved on to other visa categories, including being sponsored by the same company which the principal applicant is using. So it's one of the only visa categories really where you can obtain a 5-year visa from the beginning. So we don't have any concerns about what's going to happen with the extension. Yeah, because it's one thing getting the visa, it's another thing maintaining the visa. And this route doesn't require you to extend halfway through. So you have your next application will be your PR.
Oh, that's a great thing. In fact, so you're saying the children who are less than 18, what happens if they turn more than 18 while they are already in UK? What are the conditions for them?
That's a great question. So as long as they enter the route before they've turned 18, it does not matter what their age is past that time. So they can continue being independent for as long as they're living with the family, they're not married, and they're not in full-time employment. So long as those factors are still the same, they can continue past 18, as long as we made the first application before the child turned 18.
So it's a direct pathway for the whole family for citizenship. Absolutely. As far as they could fulfill the requirement of the citizenship.
Absolutely.
So with that, can you give us the main benefit, to summarize the benefit of this self-sponsored visa, so everyone who is listening to this podcast, they can understand if they can relate to these benefits and plan accordingly?
Yes. So the main benefit obviously is that anybody can potentially qualify. It doesn't have any minimum investment. The only real expenditure that you need to factor in is the salary that you'll pay yourself, of which most of the money is coming back into your own pocket anyway. It allows you to run whatever business you like. You're not restricted to business activity, business location, and you can own the company outright. The benefits that you would get as part of your visa itself obviously is unlimited healthcare at the point of use for the rest of your visa period and beyond. The children will go to free state school education up until the age of university level. When they get to the university level, if at that point they're settled, they can go to the university as a home student, and they'll get basically a loan from the government to be able to pay for their fees.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the partner also can take full-time employment, can run a business, they have an open work permit, and the principal applicant actually can take a second job for up to 20 hours per week. So there's lots of opportunity to make additional money, and if applicants are looking for ways to supplement their income.
So that brings another question which is related to this, is what happened to the university education? So a lot of people, while they are migrating to UK, their main perspective is, apart from school education, they're looking for university education for their children.
Yes.
And that too subsidized rate. So when they can avail, the university education subsidized rate?
So as soon as the child has obtained their permanent residency, which at the earliest opportunity would be after 5 years. So once they've got the permanent residency, they will be considered a home student and will have it at subsidized rates. And as I mentioned previously, they'll get a loan from the government to cover all of their university fees, and they only pay it back once they start working.
So just for the clarity for all the viewers, so those who are not on a permanent residence, they have an option of taking loan from the government
Yes.
and pay back once they're working. If they already get a permanent residency, that means they will have automatic subsidized tuition fee
Correct.
as the UK citizens are getting similar way.
Correct. Exactly.
Oh, that's a great solution. So what are the renewal requirements and process for the UK self-sponsored visa?
So we are applying for a 5-year visa from the beginning. So the next application should be the PR. In that case, really, the only major requirement is that the salary was paid during the 5 years, that the principal applicant has passed a Life in the UK test, which is a type of citizenship test, which can be done at any time, and that they've stayed at least 185 days in the UK. So that's 6 months of the year. They should be in the UK, and they can be 6 months out in any 12-month period. If the applicant is unable to meet this criteria for some reason, maybe they were traveling too much, or for any other reason they couldn't meet the criteria, they can extend the visa indefinitely. So they can keep renewing it for 5 years. So we have had scenarios where, maybe the husband's working in another country and they're not able to meet the 185-day rule. Fine. We'll extend your visa again for another 5 years. Maybe we'll try for PR 1 year later or a year after that. But we don't uproot the family. The family can stay. They can continue, children can continue with school, the wife can continue working, and their life will continue.
That's great flexibility as per the law, in fact.
Absolutely.
How does the UK point-based immigration system impact this visa? Is there any correlation with that?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So although we technically have a points-based system on paper, it's not the same as other countries like Australia. So really the only point score that you have is what your job title will be and whether you have the English language qualification or not. So an external qualification like a bachelor's or a master's doesn't impact your score functionally. So anybody can apply as long as they are able to do the job that they're being sponsored for.
Okay, so there's no such correlation as much as point system is required. As far as
Correct.
they are able to fulfill those criteria, they will be able to achieve this visa requirement. Could you elaborate on the financial requirements for the UK self-sponsored visas? What level of investment or proof of funds is necessary? Because whenever someone thinks about investment-based program, so there's a little bit confusion between actually skilled worker visa program and the investment-based program. Just for our viewers who are watching this podcast for clarity, is there any investment or proof of funds necessary under this program?
By the law, there's absolutely no minimum investment requirement. I think practically speaking, though, if you're running a business, you may have some outgoings, like maybe you have an office, maybe you have some payroll that you need to pay for. You obviously need to cover the cost of your salary. And if we think about it pragmatically, maybe we won't make any money for the first 6 months. So we want to have some funds reserved to be able to pay our own salary. So maybe a little bit of funds to start up the company. So maybe 10 to 20,000 pounds is wise to keep just as a buffer, but there's no minimum investment requirement.
Oh, that's great. So there's no minimum investment requirement, but there's a proof of funds in terms of while they're making a visa application?
No.
Any funds to be
None
shown?
at all. None at all.
Okay. In terms of the professional background, what kind of profiles typically succeed in obtaining this visa? Because this is important for everyone to understand who could qualify, who could not qualify.
Sure. Interesting question. So we would say anybody has the potential to qualify for this visa. I think it really depends on whether the business that you want to do is suitable for either A, your experience, or B, your passion. Okay. And we say be your passion because this effectively is a work visa that can be used for entrepreneurs also. All right. And as an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have to have an experience in the business that you're starting. You just have to prove that you have a passion for it. So even if it's your wife who is a homemaker and they are a great cook and they want to set up a restaurant in the UK, that's completely fine. Or if you're a software developer with 10 years plus experience, that's also fine. The visa has a wide scope and allows for anybody to apply. The only really key qualification is that they need to pass the English test.
Oh, that's great. So it's passion or with experience.
Correct.
Either one of these leads to a skilled worker visa or
Correct.
opening a company. What kind of support and resources are available for the applicants of the UK self-sponsored visas or any skilled worker or families migrating to UK?
Absolutely. There's a wide range of post-landing services that obviously we or you guys can help applicants with, whether that's settling in the UK, finding the best place to live, support with running their business, introduction to accountants. There's also lots of additional business services that are provided by the UK government, which are free for everybody to use to help them establish and obtain grants for their business. And obviously, we, as their trusted source in the UK, will support them as much as they like and make any necessary introductions for business advisors, accountants, or other lawyers that they might require.
So that gives a clear pathway for their family and the business settlement if they're looking for. So once approved, what are the conditions of a stay attached to this visa? What freedom does it grant the holder in the terms of employment and mobility within the UK? I know you have answered these questions, but if you can quickly highlight on this factor.
So the principal applicant's main activity obviously is the business that they're running. So they can do unlimited kind of B2B or B2C business through that company. They can take a second job for up to 20 hours per week.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. So, they can supplement their income that way. Their dependent, whoever that might be, has a complete open work permit. So they can take any job at any number of hours. They can also run a business, or they can just relax. They don't have to be doing anything. In terms of mobility, obviously they can run a business anywhere in the UK, and they can be outside the UK for up to 180 days per year without it impacting the PR. Now, they can be outside more than that. All that would mean is we would delay the PR by maybe a few years. So it doesn't mean that they will default or lose their visa if that occurred.
That's good. So there's a flexibility in their movement.
Yes.
Can you discuss the pathway of UK self-sponsored visa to the permanent residency and citizenship again for our viewers to have a better clarity so they know while they're planning there's the pathway for their citizenship. A lot of people look for only permanent residency. Many of them are looking for just business entrepreneur opportunity. Probably they will not take the PR and citizenship. So especially for those who are looking for direct citizenship pathway. So can you just give a highlight on that?
Okay, so let's imagine, Waquar, you have obtained your skilled worker visa.
Yes, that's one of the examples, yes.
Yeah, it's your first day in the UK now. So what do you need to do to get to the first step, which is to apply for PR?
Okay.
So you would need to make sure you stay every 12 months, 185 days minimum in the UK, and you run your business as normal, and that business pays you your set salary every month. After 5 years, we can make your application for permanent residency, providing those conditions are met, and you have passed your Life in the UK exam, which is 24 questions. You have to get 18 out of 24 right. You can take the test as many times as you like. So not too complicated. I'm sure you can manage after 5 years.
It's very straightforward for anyone,
of course,
who is looking for better career for himself or better future for the family and children. And most importantly, those who are living in Middle East, GCC, or India, or Pakistan, or Bangladesh, in these regions, it's just 8 hours from here to UK. And it's most of us, while we have been growing, we have seen our friends, our relatives, our professional connections to UK that create real connections and motivations to look UK as a new immigrant country.
Yes.
What would be your last advice to those who are planning to choose or opt UK as an immigrant country? What would you advise in terms of their planning, their ambitions?
So I would say, unlike other countries, if we compare it to the US that has an EP5 visa for 35 years, Canada has very well-established visas. The UK is very fast-moving. And we're at a point now where we're going to have a general election in the next few months, and that can be a big shakeup of the immigration system. Really, my best advice for people is, if you see a visa category that you think you fit into, do not wait, just apply. because that same visa category could be completely gone within a few months. And you really need to strike whilst the iron is hot. That's a UK expression, meaning to act quickly. And really don't have any fear about life in the UK. It's a very well established immigrant country, very friendly, and has all the benefits that really people are looking for. And I think now is the right time to apply. So, speak to your immigration lawyer and really just be ready to make that decision, because things will change very quickly with these visas. And as long as you have applied and obtained your visa, any changes in the future won't affect you. And as we see with many European countries and countries around the world, the trend now is for visas to get more difficult over time. So it's never going to be as easy as it is today.
So all the immigrants or even professionals or entrepreneurs who says that, okay, well, this is the right information, this is the right program, where to start with, where they should approach, how to get into the process.
So I think reach out to your designated agent that you're speaking to, get them to arrange a meeting. We would be more than happy to arrange a Zoom call or come and meet you in person in Dubai or whichever office you are around the GCC area. And we'll start the application. The first step is going to be to establish the UK business, which will all be handled on your behalf. And it's a pretty quick turnaround time. It's not like other countries where you can have your visa within 4 months. And, if you have children, we might want to coordinate it around the school terms, which tend to be September and January. So really speak to your advisor as soon as possible and start planning today about when you want to be in the UK.
Oh, great, Houman. So you've given a great insight about the pathway from self-sponsored skilled worker visa to the permanent residency. Can you shed more light for our viewers to understand how they can achieve citizenship? Because a lot of people, their main perspective is citizenship. So I'm a little bit too much specific, but that would be great for our viewers if you can explain and give a better idea.
Of course, yeah. A lot of the time that's the end goal, right, is to get the passport. So this British citizenship can be applied for 1 year after PR has been achieved. Yeah, so it's not a long path really. So if we're talking about a total timeline, that will take 6 years at the earliest. To qualify at that point, there's basically just a residency test, which is based off the last 5 years. So in our 6-year timeline, that will be year 6 to year 2, effectively. And the applicant just needs to show, together with their family, that they didn't have absences of more than 450 days in 5 years. So that averages out to about 90 days of absences. Okay. So it's a little bit shorter than the PR rules, but obviously this can be applied for at any time in the future. But the earliest would be 1 year after PR.
Okay.
And there's no restrictions on whether you have any other kind of passport. Dual nationality for the UK is completely allowed. And the process is relatively straightforward.
So I have now 3 different questions related to it, which is very interesting. One, that UK allows dual citizenship.
It does, yes.
That's a good.
And it doesn't care whether your country does not allow it.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Chinese nationals cannot have dual nationality, but I know plenty of Chinese nationals that have both, because the UK government does not report to the Chinese government whether you have applied for a British passport or not. So you're perfectly allowed to hold both within the UK law.
The next question which comes out from here is, so those who are looking for the fastest way to get the citizenship, which would be 6 years, which is 1 year after the permanent residency, as far as they achieve following thing, you can correct me, the minimum number of days stay in UK each year. And second is that they have completed the timeline, total number of years. And what else?
And that's it pretty. So the dependents will have to pass if they're over 18, the English test and the life in the UK test.
When you say life in UK test, what it is for our viewers? Life in UK is actually paper-based test they need to do, or there would be an interview?
No, not at all. It's actually much similar to that. So you go to a center, there's a computer screen, they ask you 24 multiple choice questions. As long as you get 75%, which is 18 out of 24, you will pass the test. And it's a mixture of British culture, British history, and British values. So one of the questions might be, who's the current king? Or who was the prime minister during the Second World War, which was Winston Churchill.
Okay.
Or it might say, what is Old Trafford and Wembley football stadiums? So pretty straightforward things that you would pick up over 5 years, to be honest with you. And a lot of people probably know most of the questions anyway.
Yes, just to check the basic integration to the society and UK culture.
Exactly.
So the other part of it, as you mentioned, that the earliest would be 6 years.
Yes.
The longest could be?
You could apply for citizenship at any point in the future. Yeah, so you don't have a time limit at all. All that happens is when you make your application, whichever that year might be, let's say it's in 10 years time or it's in 6 years time, they look back 5 years and they check your residency test, which was, did you stay in the UK with no absences of more than 90 days on average per year? Some absences above this are allowed based off medical grounds or exceptional circumstances. But as long as you've met that test, then that's the major requirement.
So what I understand, as far as someone has completed the 5 years requirement,
Yes.
then later on, any further 1 year, he fulfills those further requirement, he could qualify for the citizenship.
Correct,
to
yeah.
apply.
So if we're talking about the quickest possible way, which was your initial question, instead of having 6 months absences, they try and keep it to 3 months absences.
Yes.
And then they'll be able to obtain British nationality after 6 years.
Great. Thank you, Houman, for shedding light on these crucial aspects of UK immigration. To our listeners, we hope this discussion helps you understand your options for UK residency and citizenship through investment. Thank you very much, Houman,
Thank you. It's been a
being
pleasure.
here and giving you available time. I know you have a lot of schedules to catch up, but still you took out your valuable time to meet us, to discuss and shed more lights for the viewers about UK immigration matters. Thank you again.
It's always a pleasure.
Houman, so as per tradition, we request our guests to give their signature or autograph, so we keep it as our reference.
It's an honor.
And memory.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Houman.